Welcome to US Top Analyst. If you are here for the first time, please hit the like button and subscribe. Let's go. Understood. Here is your fully expanded, original, and deeply analytical article, 300 plus words. It is written from scratch, structured for clarity, and meets your requested length range. What is unfolding in the Middle East is not simply another episode in a long history of geopolitical tension. It is a moment of structural disruption, one that challenges the assumptions that have governed deterrence, intelligence dominance, and global power balance for decades. At the center of this shift lies the reported transfer of 500 Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missiles from North Korea to Iran. If accurate, this development does not just alter regional dynamics, it redefines the logic of modern deterrence itself. The scale of this transfer immediately sets it apart from any prior weapons movement in the region. 500 intercontinental ballistic missiles represent not merely an increase in capability, but a transformation in strategic posture. For comparison, the United States maintains approximately 400 Minuteman III ICBMs as part of its land-based nuclear deterrent. These are fixed, silo-based systems with known locations, continuously monitored by adversaries. Iran's reported arsenal, by contrast, would consist of road-mobile systems capable of dispersal, concealment, and rapid redeployment across a vast national territory. This distinction between fixed and mobile systems is not trivial. It lies at the heart of modern strategic planning. Fixed systems can be targeted. Mobile systems introduce uncertainty, an uncertainty that undermines the effectiveness of preemptive strike doctrines. If a missile launcher can move, hide, and reappear at unpredictable locations, the task of neutralizing it becomes exponentially more complex. Multiply that uncertainty across hundreds of platforms and the challenge becomes nearly insurmountable. The Hwasong-18 itself represents a significant technological leap. First demonstrated in 2023, it marked North Korea's transition to solid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missiles. This shift is critical. Liquid-fueled systems require a lengthy preparation process before launch, during which they emit detectable signatures. These signatures provide a window of opportunity for surveillance and potential interception. Solid fuel systems eliminate this vulnerability. They are essentially always ready. A launcher can receive an order and execute a launch within minutes, leaving little to no time for detection or response. This capability alone reshapes the strategic environment. Preemptive strike doctrines, which rely on identifying and targeting missiles before launch, become far less effective. Against a dispersed, mobile, solid-fuel missile force, the window for action is reduced to near zero. Range further amplifies the system's impact. With an estimated capability exceeding 15,000 kilometers, the Hwasong-18 extends Iran's potential reach far beyond the Middle East. Targets across Europe, Asia, and North America fall within range. This transforms Iran from a regional military actor into one with global strike potential. It is a shift that cannot be ignored by any major power. The guidance system adds another layer of sophistication. By combining inertial navigation with stellar referencing, the missile operates independently of satellite-based systems such as GPS. This makes it resistant to electronic warfare measures designed to disrupt navigation. In practical terms, it means that one of the key tools used by advanced militaries to degrade missile accuracy becomes ineffective. The missile navigates using the stars, a method that cannot be jammed. Accuracy estimates suggest a circular error, probable of roughly 100 to 150 meters. For strategic weapons, this level of precision is more than sufficient. Against urban or large military targets, the margin of error is inconsequential in terms of overall effect. The missile's survivability is further enhanced by the use of maneuverable re-entry vehicles. Traditional missile defense systems are optimized to intercept warheads following predictable trajectories. A maneuvering warhead, capable of altering its path at hypersonic speeds, introduces unpredictability into the intercept equation. This significantly reduces the effectiveness of existing defense systems. When these characteristics are considered together, mobility, rapid launch capability, extended range, independent guidance, and terminal maneuverability, the result is a weapon system that is not only difficult to stop, but also difficult to deter. When deployed at scale, it becomes a structural challenge to existing security frameworks. Understanding how such a transfer could occur requires a deeper examination of intelligence limitations. Despite their sophistication, intelligence systems are not omniscient. They operate within constraints: geographical, political, and analytical. One key factor is the exploitation of geographical seams. Surveillance capabilities are often concentrated in specific regions or along known routes. By moving equipment through less monitored corridors, particularly overland routes that bypass maritime choke points, it is possible to reduce the likelihood of detection. These routes may traverse areas where intelligence collection is politically sensitive or operationally constrained. Timing is another critical element. Large, singular transfers are easier to detect than a series of smaller movements spread over time. By dividing shipments into multiple phases and executing them over an extended period, the overall pattern becomes less visible. Each movement appears routine. Only when aggregated does the full scale become apparent, and by then the operation is complete. Deception further complicates detection. Maintaining normal activity levels at known facilities can create a false sense of continuity. Analysts observing these sites may see no unusual patterns and assume that no significant changes are occurring. Meanwhile, operations conducted at secondary or previously unknown locations proceed with reduced scrutiny. The result is not a single intelligence failure, but a demonstration of how complex, well-coordinated operations can exploit systemic limitations. The strategic consequences for the United States are profound. Each potential response option carries significant risks, and none offers a straightforward solution. A large-scale military strike aimed at eliminating the missile force would require extensive resources and sustained operations. Given the mobility and dispersion of the systems, such a campaign would likely escalate into a broader conflict. Iran possesses a range of retaliatory capabilities, including regional missile forces and allied networks. Any attempt to neutralize the ICBM force could trigger a cascade of responses, leading to a regional war with global economic implications. The economic dimension of such a conflict cannot be overlooked. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for global oil shipments, could be disrupted. Even a temporary closure would have significant effects on global energy markets, driving prices upward and impacting economies worldwide. The interconnected nature of the global economy means that a regional conflict could have far-reaching consequences. Covert operations represent another avenue, but their impact is typically gradual. Sabotage, cyber operations, and targeted disruptions can degrade capabilities over time, but they do not address the immediate strategic reality created by the deployment of hundreds of missiles. Covert action is a tool for shaping long-term outcomes, not for resolving immediate crises. Diplomatic pressure and sanctions face inherent limitations. The strategic value of such a capability far outweighs the costs imposed by external pressure. A state that has invested decades in achieving a deterrent breakthrough is unlikely to relinquish it voluntarily. Sanctions may impose economic hardship, but they rarely compel the abandonment of core security assets. Missile defense expansion offers a partial response, but is constrained by both cost and capacity. Interceptors are expensive, and their numbers are limited. Against a large-scale missile force, even advanced systems can be overwhelmed. Moreover, the cost asymmetry favours the attacker. It is generally cheaper to produce offensive missiles than to intercept them. This creates a dynamic in which defensive measures struggle to keep pace with offensive capabilities. Negotiation remains a potential path, though it is politically complex. Engaging with a new strategic reality requires acknowledging that the balance of power has shifted. Such acknowledgement carries domestic and international implications. It challenges long-standing narratives and may be perceived as a concession. Yet, historically, periods of strategic transition have often required precisely this kind of recalibration. For Israel, the implications are immediate and deeply unsettling. The country's strategic doctrine has long relied on maintaining a qualitative military edge and, in extremis, the possibility of overwhelming retaliation. The emergence of a large, mobile, and potentially nuclear-capable missile force challenges these assumptions. The concept of deterrence becomes more complicated when an adversary possesses comparable or asymmetrical capabilities. The risk is not simply one of conflict, but of miscalculation. In a high-stakes environment with limited margins for error, decisions made under pressure can have far-reaching consequences. Military readiness can be increased, defensive systems can be optimized, and strategic assets can be repositioned. Yet these measures are inherently reactive. They do not address the underlying shift in capabilities. The fundamental challenge is not one of preparedness, but of paradigm. Domestically, the impact extends beyond security considerations. Economic indicators respond to perceived risk. Financial markets may react with volatility. Investment decisions may be delayed or redirected. Public perception, shaped by both information and uncertainty, becomes a factor in its own right. The psychological dimension is particularly significant. Perception of vulnerability can influence both public opinion and policy decisions. In a society accustomed to a certain level of security, a sudden shift in the perceived threat environment can have profound effects. Beyond the immediate regional implications, this development has global significance. The framework of nuclear non-proliferation, already under strain, faces a new challenge. The transfer of advanced delivery systems between states operating outside established agreements raises questions about the effectiveness of existing controls. Other nations are likely to observe and draw conclusions. The perceived success of such a transfer may influence strategic calculations elsewhere. States that have been weighing the costs and benefits of pursuing advanced capabilities may reassess their positions. The logic of deterrence, once concentrated among a limited number of actors, could become more diffuse. Major powers are also reassessing their strategies. Each views the situation through its own strategic lens, considering both immediate implications and longer-term effects. For some, the development represents a challenge to existing norms. For others, it offers insights into the limits of those norms. The situation also highlights the interconnected nature of global security. Developments in one region can have cascading effects elsewhere. Strategic attention is a finite resource. As focus shifts to address one challenge, it may be diverted from others. To better understand the trajectory of this situation, it is useful to examine historical parallels. The Cold War provides several examples of moments when technological or strategic shifts altered the balance of power. The introduction of intercontinental ballistic missiles, the deployment of submarine launch systems, and the development of missile defense technologies all represented such moments. Each of these developments required adaptation. Policies were revised, doctrines were updated, and new frameworks were established. The current situation may represent a similar inflection point. Looking ahead, several scenarios can be envisioned. In one scenario, diplomatic engagement leads to a form of managed deterrence. This would involve tacit acceptance of the new reality, combined with efforts to establish boundaries and reduce the risk of escalation. Such arrangements are not unprecedented. They reflect a recognition that stability can sometimes be achieved through balance rather than dominance. In another scenario, efforts to counter the missile force through military or covert means lead to escalation. This could involve a cycle of action and reaction, with each side seeking to assert its position while avoiding full-scale conflict. The risk in such a scenario lies in the potential for unintended consequences. A third scenario involves a broader shift in the global security environment. As other states reassess their positions, the proliferation of advanced capabilities could accelerate. This would represent a move toward a more multipolar and less predictable deterrence landscape. Each scenario carries risks and uncertainties. The outcome will depend on a combination of strategic choices, technological developments, and unforeseen events. Economic considerations will also play a role. The global economy is sensitive to geopolitical risk. Energy markets, in particular, are closely tied to stability in the Middle East. Disruptions can have ripple effects across multiple sectors, influencing everything from transportation costs to consumer prices. The financial dimension extends beyond immediate market reactions. Long-term investment decisions are influenced by perceptions of stability. Regions perceived as high risk may see reduced investment, while others may benefit from shifts in capital flows. The technological dimension should not be overlooked. Advances in missile technology, defense systems, and intelligence capabilities continue to evolve. The interplay between offensive and defensive systems is dynamic. Innovations in one area can prompt countermeasures in another. This dynamic creates a continuous cycle of adaptation. No system remains dominant indefinitely. Each advantage is eventually met with a response. The current situation may accelerate this cycle, driving further innovation and competition. Ultimately, the reported transfer of 500 Hwasong-18 missiles represents more than a single event. It is a signal of a broader shift in the nature of power and the dynamics of deterrence. It challenges established assumptions and forces a reassessment of strategies that have been in place for decades. The path forward is uncertain. It will require careful navigation, strategic thinking, and a willingness to engage with complex realities. Decisions made in this period will have lasting consequences, shaping the contours of international relations for years to come. In a world defined by rapid change and increasing complexity, the ability to adapt becomes paramount. The balance of power is not static. It evolves in response to technological advances, strategic decisions, and shifting geopolitical landscapes. What is happening now is part of that evolution. It is a moment that demands attention, analysis, and thoughtful response. The stakes are high, and the margin for error is narrow. The future will not be determined solely by the capabilities of any single actor, but by the interactions between them. Understanding those interactions and the forces that shape them is essential to navigating the challenges ahead.